Tonight, there's no escape from me, Fiona.
You're crazy. I have a boyfriend.
Tonight, there's no escape from me, Fiona. I want you, and I'd have you. Kai Yoon's voice was low, intimate, his breath warm against her ear as his hands settled on her waist. They were alone in the morning quiet of the executive floor, the rest of Sterling and associates still filing in with their coffee cups and small talk 2 floors below. Fiona's fingers trembled against the file folders pressed between them, her back against the cool glass of the conference room wall. She could feel every inch of where his body nearly touched hers, the heat radiating through expensive fabric, the ink that decorated his skin visible where his crisp white shirt collar couldn't quite contain it. Dark, intricate patterns that climbed from his hands, disappeared beneath cuffs and collar. A story written across his flesh that she'd caught herself staring at too many times to count. "You're crazy," she whispered, her voice barely audible even in the silence. Her hands came up to his chest, a weak attempt at distance. "I have a boyfriend." But she didn't push hard, didn't step away, didn't do any of the things a woman who truly wanted to escape would do. Kai's lips curved into something between a smile and a smirk, his dark eyes holding hers with an intensity that made her knees weak. "Do you? Because the way you look at me, Fiona, that's not how a woman in love looks at anyone except the man she wants." "That's not." Her protest died as his thumb traced a slow line along her jawbone, tilting her face up toward his. "Tell me to stop," he murmured. "Mean it and I will, but don't lie to me, don't lie to yourself." The morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting golden light across his features, sharp cheekbones, full lips, the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers except for the dangerous edge that kept him firmly in the real world. At 32, Kai Yoon had built an empire that most men twice his age could only dream of, and he wore that power as naturally as he wore the designer suits that draped his frame. Fiona had been his secretary for 3 months. 3 months of professional distance that had been eroding, moment by moment, until this morning when he'd caught her arriving early, when the building was still empty enough for truth. "This is inappropriate," she managed, even as her fingers curled into his shirt instead of pushing him away. "You're my boss. I'm Derek and I have been together for 2 years. 2 years of what?" Kai's other hand came up, framing her face between his palms. The tattoos on his hands were mesmerizing up close, geometric patterns that shifted into something organic, almost floral, before disappearing beneath his sleeves. 2 years of him taking you for granted, of you working late to avoid going home, of settling for someone who doesn't see what's right in front of him. "You don't know anything about my relationship. I know you haven't smiled, really smiled, once when you've been on the phone with him. I know you tense up every time his name appears on your screen. I know that right now with me, you're more alive than I've ever seen you." His thumb brushed across her lower lip. "Tell me I'm wrong." She couldn't. God help her, she couldn't. "Kai." "Say my name again." It was barely a request, more like a demand wrapped in velvet. "I want to hear how it sounds when you're not being professional, when you're just Fiona, and I'm just a man who can't stop thinking about you." "This is insane. We work together. There are rules, policies." "Rules?" He laughed softly, the sound rich and dark. "Fiona, I've broken every rule that mattered to get where I am. Company policy is the least of my concerns." "It should concern you. Sexual harassment, hostile work environment." "Is it harassment if you want it too?" His forehead touched hers, close enough that she could see the flecks of amber in his dark eyes. "Is it hostile when every part of you is leaning toward me instead of away?" She was, despite her words, despite every logical reason this was wrong. Her body had betrayed her completely, arching into Kai's touch like a flower toward sunlight. "I can't do this," she whispered, but even she could hear how unconvincing it sounded. "Can't or whoa?" His hands slid from her face down to her waist again, settling there with confident possession. There's a difference, Fiona. One is about ability, the other is about choice. Both, neither, I don't know anymore. She closed her eyes, trying to find clarity in the darkness behind her lids, but all she could feel was him, solid, warm, wanted. You confuse me. Good. His lips brushed her temple, featherlight. You've been confusing me since the day you walked into my office with that personnel file and refused to be intimidated when I was in a foul mood. Do you remember that? She did. Her first day, when she'd been told Mr. Yoon was particular, demanding, impossible to please. When she'd knocked on his door with her heart in her throat and found him behind his desk, looking like every warning she'd been given made flesh. He'd been curt, dismissive, clearly annoyed at having to break in another secretary after the last one had quit without notice. And she'd stood her ground, answered his rapid-fire questions without flinching, organized his chaotic schedule within an hour, and left him staring after her with something that might have been respect. You called me competent, she said. High praise, apparently. I called you competent because anything else would have been inappropriate on your first day. His voice dropped lower. What I thought was considerably more interesting. Kai. The elevator chimed in the distance. Voices echoed from the floor below, early arrivals, the building coming to life. Kai stepped back smoothly, his hands leaving her waist with obvious reluctance. The loss of contact felt like a physical ache. He straightened his tie, composed and professional in seconds, while Fiona struggled to remember how to breathe normally. Tonight, he said, picking up the conversation as if the past 5 minutes hadn't happened. Dinner. There's a restaurant in Koreatown I think you'd like. 8 o'clock. That sounds like a date. It is a date. I have a boyfriend, she repeated weakly. Then break up with him. Kai's tone was matter-of-fact, as if he were discussing a simple business transaction. You're not happy, Fiona. I can see it every day. So end it. Be honest with yourself, if not with him. You're very presumptuous. I'm very certain. He moved toward the door, pausing with his hand on the handle. 8 o'clock. I'll pick you up. Wear something that makes you feel beautiful, not that you need help with that. I haven't agreed to anything. You haven't said no, either. His smile was knowing, infuriating, irresistible. That's answer enough for now. He left her standing there, her heart racing, her mind spinning. Her body still humming from his touch. Through the glass wall, she watched him stride toward his office, confidence in every line of his body, completely assured that she'd be exactly where he wanted her tonight. The worst part, he was probably right. Fiona pressed her palms against the cool glass, trying to calm the storm inside her. 3 months. 3 months of perfect professionalism, of carefully maintained boundaries, of pretending she didn't notice the way his eyes followed her across a room or how his voice softened when he said her name. 3 months of lying to herself. The day crawled by with excruciating slowness. Every time Fiona tried to focus on her work, her mind drifted back to that moment in the conference room, Kai's hands on her waist, his voice in her ear, the promise of tonight hanging between them like electricity before a storm. She'd brought him coffee at 10, as she did every morning. Their fingers had brushed as he took the cup, and the contact had sent sparks racing up her arm. He'd held her gaze for a beat too long, his expression unreadable except for the heat in his eyes. Thank you, Fiona. Just her name, nothing else, but the way he said it made her feel like he was saying so much more. By noon, she'd made her decision. She called her apartment during lunch, knowing Derek would be at work, and left a voicemail that was both cowardly and necessary. Derek, we need to talk, about us, about where this is going. I'll be home late tonight, work thing, but we should sit down this weekend. Really talk. It wasn't a breakup, not yet, but it was the beginning of one, and they both probably knew it. The afternoon brought unexpected complications in the form of Jaiwoo Park. Fiona had heard about her, of course. The office gossip mill had been churning with speculation since Jaiwoo had started appearing at company events 6 months ago. Beautiful, sophisticated, from one of Seoul's most prominent families. The kind of woman who looked like she'd been born wearing designer labels and walking in heels that cost more than Fiona's monthly rent. The kind of woman who clearly had history with Kai-yoon. She appeared at Fiona's desk at 3 o'clock, all graceful composure and calculating eyes. "You must be Fiona Thompson, I'm Jaiwoo Park." Her English was perfect, barely accented. "Is Kai available?" "Mr. Yoon is in a meeting until 4. Would you like me to schedule something for you?" "No need. I'll wait." Jaiwoo settled into one of the chairs near Fiona's desk, crossing her legs with elegant precision. "So you're the new secretary everyone's been talking about." "I wasn't aware people were talking about me." "Oh, they are. 3 months and you haven't quit yet. That's practically a record." Jaiwoo's smile was pleasant, but her eyes were sharp. "Kai can be quite demanding, but I'm sure you've discovered that." There was something in her tone, some subtle emphasis that made Fiona's spine straighten. "Mr. Yoon has high standards. I appreciate that about him." "Mr. Yoon," Jaiwoo repeated, as if testing the formality. "How professional, though I suppose that's appropriate given your position." The implication was clear. Know your place. Fiona felt a flicker of irritation, quickly suppressed. She had no claim on Kai, no right to feel territorial about a man who technically was just her boss. Except that this morning had changed something fundamental between them, and Jaiwoo's presence felt like an intrusion into territory that was suddenly, inexplicably important. "Can I get you something while you wait? Coffee, water?" "No, thank you. I'm perfectly comfortable." Jaiwoo pulled out her phone, but Fiona could feel the other woman's attention on her, assessing, calculating. "How long have you been in the corporate world, Fiona?" "About 5 years. I started as a receptionist and worked my way up." "How American, that pull yourself up by your bootstraps mentality." Jaiwoo's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "In Korea, we value connections, family background, the right schools. It creates a certain understanding among people of similar status." "I'm sure it does." "Kai and I went to university together, Seoul National. We've known each other for over a decade." Jaiwoo's gaze was direct now, dropping any pretense of casual conversation. "We understand each other in ways that transcend mere attraction or workplace proximity. Shared culture, shared expectations, shared futures." Fiona kept her expression neutral, even as something twisted in her chest. "That sounds lovely for you both." "It is, or it will be once Kai stops being distracted by." Jaiwoo paused delicately. "Novelty." The conference room door opened, and Kai emerged with 3 executives, all handshakes and satisfied expressions. His gaze swept the area, landing first on Fiona, then shifting to Jaiwoo with visible surprise. "Jaiwoo, I didn't know you were in town." "Surprise." She stood, moving toward him with the easy familiarity of long acquaintance. "I have news about the Seoul expansion. Do you have time?" Kai glanced at Fiona, and she saw the conflict in his expression, obligation versus desire, past versus present. "Of course. Give me 10 minutes to wrap up here." "I'll wait in your office." Jaiwoo brushed past him, her hand trailing across his arm in a gesture that spoke of intimacy and ownership. After she disappeared into his office, Kai approached Fiona's desk. His voice was low, meant only for her. That was unexpected. "Old friend." "Complicated history." He rubbed the back of his neck, a gesture she'd learned meant he was frustrated. "Fiona, about tonight." "If you need to cancel, I understand." "I don't need to cancel. I want to explain." "You don't owe me an explanation. She paused, uncertain how to finish that sentence. "What were they?" "It's fine, Kai. Handle your business." His jaw tightened. "Tonight, 8 o'clock, nothing changes that." He left before she could respond. disappearing into his office where Jaiwoo waited. Through the glass walls, Fiona watched them talk, watched Jaiwoo laugh at something Kai said, watched the ease between them that came from years of knowing each other. And she wondered if she'd been fooling herself all day. If this morning had been a moment of impulse that Kai would regret once he remembered all the logical reasons why his secretary was a terrible idea. By 7 o'clock, most of the office had cleared out. Fiona sat at her desk, ostensibly finishing reports, but really just killing time until she needed to leave. Jaiwoo had departed an hour ago, though not before stopping by Fiona's desk one more time. "It was nice meeting you, Fiona. I'm sure we'll be seeing more of each other." Her smile had been serene, confident. "Kai and I have so much to discuss about the future." Now alone in the quiet office, Fiona pulled out her phone and opened her texts. No messages from Derek, which was typical. No messages from Kai either, which made her stomach knot with uncertainty. Maybe she should just go home. Forget about tonight, forget about this morning, go back to the safe, boring predictability of her life before Kai Yoon had looked at her like she was something rare and precious. Planning to sit there all night. She jumped, spinning her chair to find Kai leaning against the edge of her desk. He'd changed, no longer in his work suit but dark jeans and a black button-down that made him look younger, more relaxed, and somehow even more dangerous. The tattoos on his neck were more visible now, intricate patterns that made her want to trace them with her fingers. "I thought, Daewoo seemed like she had a lot to discuss with you." She did business, always business with Jaiwoo. He held out his hand. "Come on, we have reservations." "Kai, if this is complicated, if I'm making things difficult for you." "You are making things difficult." He pulled her to her feet, not releasing her hand. "You've been making things difficult since the day you walked into my office. You make me want things I shouldn't want, think about things I shouldn't think about, break rules I've always been careful to follow." "That sounds like a problem." "It is a problem, the best kind of problem." His free hand came up to cup her cheek. "Jaiwoo is part of my past, a comfortable past, an expected past, one that makes sense to everyone who knows us. But you, Fiona, you're something else entirely, something I didn't plan for, something I can't seem to walk away from even when I should. What if I'm just a distraction? Novelty, like she said." "Is that what you think?" His thumb stroked across her cheekbone. "That this is just me being bored, looking for something new and shiny?" "I don't know what to think. This morning felt real, but then she showed up, and the way she talked about you, about your history." "Listen to me." Kai's voice was firm, commanding her full attention. "Jaiwoo and I have history, that's true. Our families hoped for more, expected more, and for a while I thought maybe that was the path I'd take. Safe, predictable, the right kind of match for someone in my position. So why didn't you?" "Because I realized I'd rather have something real than something convenient. And this," he gestured between them, "whatever this is between us, it's real. I felt it the first day you worked for me. I've felt it every day since. And this morning, when I finally stopped pretending I could ignore it, when I saw that you felt it too." "I do feel it," she admitted quietly. "That's what scares me. I barely know you, and yet somehow it feels like I've been waiting for you my entire life. That's insane." "Then we'll be insane together." He leaned down, his forehead resting against hers. "Come to dinner with me. Let me show you who I am when I'm not being Mr. Yoon, the demanding boss. Let me learn who you are when you're not being the perfect, professional secretary." "And then what?" "And then we figure it out, one day at a time, one moment at a time." His lips brushed hers, soft and questioning. "Say yes, Fiona." She should think about this more. Should consider the complications, the office politics, the fact that her current relationship needed to end before starting something new. Should be sensible and cautious and smart. Instead, she kissed him back, pouring 3 months of suppressed longing into the contact. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, her decision was made. "Yes." The restaurant was everything Kai had promised. Intimate, authentic, the kind of place that didn't advertise because it didn't need to. They were seated in a private corner, the lighting low and warm, the scent of grilling meat and spices filling the air. "Have you had Korean food before?" Kai asked as he poured them both tea. "Once or twice, nothing like this, though." "Then let me order for you, trust me." That seems to be the theme of the evening. His smile was slow, satisfied. "I'll try to be worthy of it." The food came in waves, banchan grilled meats, stews that steamed and bubbled. Kai explained each dish, sometimes feeding her bites from his own chopsticks in a gesture that felt both casual and incredibly intimate. They talked about everything and nothing. Her childhood in Oregon, his in Seoul and later Los Angeles, books they'd loved, places they wanted to travel, dreams they'd set aside in the pursuit of practical careers. "Why did you become a secretary?" he asked at one point. "You're smart enough to do anything you wanted." "College was expensive. My family didn't have money for it, and the scholarships only covered so much. I needed to work full-time, and receptionist positions were available. By the time I graduated, I'd moved up to administrative assistant, then secretary. It paid well, and I was good at it." She shrugged. "Sometimes the path chooses you instead of the other way around." "Do you like it?" "Most days, I like being organized, solving problems, making things run smoothly. And I like—" She paused, suddenly shy. "I like working for someone who challenges me, who expects excellence and notices when I deliver it." "I do notice, every day." His hand found hers across the table. "You've made my life considerably easier and infinitely more complicated in equal measure." "Sorry about the complicated part." "Don't be. Complicated is interesting. Complicated is worth paying attention to." He traced circles on her palm with his thumb. "Tell me about your boyfriend." Fiona tensed. "Do we have to talk about him?" "If we're doing this, really doing this, then yes. I need to understand what I'm asking you to walk away from." She took a breath, trying to find words that were honest without being cruel. "Derek is safe, predictable. We've been together because it was easy, because we fit into each other's lives without requiring much effort or change. He's not a bad person. He's just not the right person, not for me. I've known it for a while, but it was easier to stay than to face the upheaval of leaving. And now? Now I can't pretend anymore. This morning changed something. You changed something. I can't go back to settling for safe when I know what it feels like to want more." "What do you want, Fiona?" The question was quiet, intense, loaded with meaning. "I want to feel alive. I want to be with someone who sees me, really sees me, not just the convenient version I present. I want—" She met his eyes. "I want you, even though it's complicated and messy and probably a terrible idea by every rational measure." "Good." He raised her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles. "Because you have me. All the complicated, messy parts included." They left the restaurant near midnight, stepping out into the cool night air. The street was quiet, most shops closed, just the distant hum of traffic and the glow of streetlights creating pools of amber warmth. Kai pulled her close, his arms around her waist, her back against his chest as they stood on the sidewalk. "I don't want tonight to end." "It doesn't have to, not yet." He turned her in his arms, and the look in his eyes made her breath catch. "Come home with me." It wasn't a demand. It was an invitation, a question, a hope laid bare. Fiona knew what her answer should be, sensible, cautious, maintaining boundaries until her current relationship was properly ended. But standing there in his arms, feeling more herself than she had in years, sensible was the last thing she wanted to be. Yes. His apartment was exactly what she'd imagined. Modern, minimalist, floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the city lights. But it was the details that caught her attention. A wall of books in Korean and English, photographs of what must be his family, a guitar propped in one corner. "You play?" she asked, gesturing to the instrument. Badly, but enthusiastically. My mother insisted I learn something artistic to balance all the business focus. He shrugged off his jacket, rolling up his sleeves. The tattoos on his arms were fully visible now, elaborate, beautiful, covering his skin from wrist to shoulder. Do they bother you? The opposite. They're beautiful. What do they mean? Come here and I'll tell you. She crossed to where he stood by the windows, and he took her hand, guiding it to his left forearm. This one, the geometric pattern, represents structure, order, the parts of my life that require control and precision. Her fingers traced the lines, feeling him shiver under her touch. And this, she moved to his other arm, where flowing organic shapes twisted upward. That's chaos, passion, the parts of life that can't be controlled, only experienced. His voice had gone rough. Two sides of the same coin, balance. And the ones on your neck. Those, he tilted his head, giving her access. Those are protection, traditional Korean symbols. My grandmother insisted. Fiona traced the patterns on his neck, standing on her toes to reach, and felt his hands settle on her waist, pulling her closer. She sounds wise. She would have liked you. His lips found her temple. Strong women who don't take nonsense from stubborn Korean men. I haven't known you long enough to know if you're stubborn. I am impossibly stubborn. It's one of my less endearing qualities. He pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. Fiona, I need you to be sure about this, about us, because once we cross this line, I won't want to go back. I'm sure, and she was, despite the complications, despite the unknowns, despite everything logical that said this was too fast, too intense, she'd never been more certain of anything. I want this. I want you. The kiss was different from the ones before, deeper, slower, a promise of everything to come. Kai's hands moved to her hair, freeing it from its clip, letting it fall around her shoulders. She worked at the buttons of his shirt, revealing more of those fascinating tattoos, the warm skin beneath. They moved through his apartment in a tangle of kisses and shed clothing, learning each other with hands and mouths and whispered words. When they finally tumbled into his bed, the city lights streaming through the windows, Fiona felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. Tonight, Kai murmured against her skin, echoing his words from that morning, there's no escape from me. I don't want to escape, she whispered back. Not anymore, not from this, not from you. And as he made love to her with a passion that matched the chaos inked into his skin, she knew with absolute certainty that her life had just changed forever. There would be complications ahead, ending things with Derek properly, navigating office dynamics, figuring out what this relationship meant and where it could go. But right now, in Kai's arms, with the night wrapped around them like a promise, none of that mattered. What mattered was this, the feeling of being alive, being seen, being wanted completely. The knowledge that sometimes the best decisions were the ones that made no logical sense, but felt absolutely right. Tomorrow would bring its challenges. Tonight was just theirs, perfect and complicated and absolutely worth it.